So you experienced, as you started, reaching out publicly to people outside of the accepted circle, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago. You experienced some kind of early days cancellation, right?
Oh, yeah.
Has that changed at all? Is it just kind of accelerated? Is it now, on steroids? Like, what has changed in this time from what you've seen?
Well, I would say when it first happened, when I first started talking about, there's something wrong with the left, and then being willing to have a conversation with some of the guys I just mentioned, suddenly I was getting all these hit pieces written about me, that I'm a white supremacist, and it's always some white version, something, and it was coming from HuffPo, and it was coming from Vox and the New York Times, and, all of these places that at one time I thought were decent outfits of journalism. And at first it really bothered me because nobody wants to, see in print that they're a white supremacist or that they're the worst thing in the world, or have my dad, who still subscribes to the New York Times, open up the New York Times and they did a ridiculous article about how YouTube leads people to the alt-right with a big picture of my face. I mean, nobody wants to see these things. And of course, because they're not true, they're actually completely counter to that. Everything that I talk about on the show, every idea that I promote in my book is counter to the collectivist ideas that would be thought of as white supremacist or something like that, or racist or bigoted. But what's interesting to me is that while at first I used to have to defend myself, and then, I'd get into Twitter wars with people, and I'd have a lot of people backing me up. What's interesting is now it still happens. Just in the last few weeks, the New York Times implied that I host white supremacists, which in essence is calling me a white supremacist. Well, now what I realize is my fans usually defend me, and I can kind of step back. So when they say that about me, when I see that in the New York Times, the heart rate doesn't change, the blood pressure doesn't change, because it's like, oh, you guys are up to your same old games, and I'm still here. And not only am I still here, I'm bigger, I'm better, and I'm stronger than I was because I've been through the mill. That being said, I get it when people are concerned about that. People don't want to lose their jobs. It's not fun to be, flamed and mobbed on Twitter. But if you survive it, you will come out stronger on the other side. That's the goal.
Well, no, and I've definitely heard this. Pretty much exactly this idea from multiple people that I've had on the show that have had this sort of thing happen, where they say, well, it's kind of like gives you an odd sense of empowerment.
Oh, yeah.
Once you're on the other side, because you're like, well, okay, so I've been canceled. Okay.
Well, then it's also because it's also patently ridiculous. The thing is, I like criticism, and I really mean this. I like genuine criticism. When I've had articles written about me that weren't hit pieces, but were genuine, Dave's good at this, but not good at this. Now, I may not agree with that, but I actually think if someone is thoughtful enough to watch a bunch of my interviews and say, maybe Dave should have followed up here with this question, or he didn't ask this to this person, or whatever it might be, that's okay. That's totally fine. First off, it's your opinion, and no one is above criticism. I like that. What I don't like is these absurd, ridiculous, over-the-top claims that, I'm a Nazi and a bigot and all that. But when you get to that other side, and then you have your own base, your own supporters defending you, and then it's like, it's kind of funny. You guys are still doing this. You New York Times, you place of journalism, which gets everything wrong all the time. You're going to still go after me for this nonsense. You're saying far more about yourself than you're saying about me.
Why do you think there's no self-reflection, no kind of looking back?
Because liberalism has failed. It is a very sad that's a very sad precept for me to say. It's a sad notion for me to talk about. I mean, my entire book is defending liberalism. And I believe that classical liberalism in a healthy system is the best sort of widest tent view of looking at the world. Our system, though, is infected right now. Wokeism has infected the system, and it is destroying everything. So the New York Times, let's say the New York Times was always sort of left, but it wasn't bananas left, and there was a big plurality of opinion there. And obviously Barry Weiss was there. Barry Weiss, who's a liberal. I mean, she's a liberal, which doesn't even really make sense to me anymore, but God bless her, she's a liberal. She couldn't even take it there anymore because there's no left far enough for the left. There's no woke enough for the wokesters. And so they're constantly purging people. And as they do that purge, they're going to destroy every institution that they let in. So ESPN goes woke. They start talking about race all day. And then what's the result? ESPN's ratings are terrible. They're in constant wars with their employees over who's the most racist and should a black person be on the sideline reporter at the NBA game, and let's get rid of that white girl. I'm talking about the Rachel Nichols story from a couple weeks ago that you may remember, and it infects every system that it's in, and the only systems that will survive are ones that don't let it in, which probably are going to be very conservative systems or new systems that are going to have a better set of ground rules from the beginning.
Well, okay, so that's very interesting, right? Because there does seem to be this, and this is, I talked with Naomi Wolf about this, and this is something that Peter Boghossian kind of really captured my imagination with a while back in an interview we did, where he basically said the left-right spectrum isn't really interesting to me anymore, and yes, I agree. The spectrum for me is cognitive liberty on one side, and on the other side, well, whatever it is, I still haven't quite figured out exactly what you call the thing on the other side.
It's cognitive liberty or sort of cognitive surrender, something like that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or the idea that people
cognitive outsourcing. How about that?
Okay, that's very interesting, because it's the idea that, yes, you should be able to impose your beliefs, or you're happy with having someone else's beliefs imposed on you.
Yeah.
The collection of those people on this side, and the people that believe that we should just be able to believe whatever we want. Now, so there is something much bigger than conservative here. It seems like this group of, as you called it, the mugged by reality liberals, or I think Naomi called it disaffected. I don't know.
Yeah, probably disaffected liberals, something like that. They may need to be disinfected too. That's a different thing. But that thing is interesting to me. I'll tell you this. So next week we're going to announce the title of my next book.
Oh.
And I'll tell you the title.
Wait, hints. Let's get some hints here.
So okay. I'll give you a hint. I think I'm dropping this for the first time. I'm not going to give you the title because I've been sworn to secrecy by the publisher. But I will tell you that at one time I wanted the book to be called The Future Conservative, because my thought was the future conservative. There were two that I liked. I liked the modern conservative and the future conservative. And my feeling was, I wrote a book defending liberalism. I believe that the ideas that I put forth in that book are the correct ideas. I believe those are the ideas that America was founded on. But now we need to move into something broader, where the traditional religious conservative, say the more liberty-minded, liberal, ex-liberal, whatever you want to say, even the neocon, the Trump people, the anti-Trump people, we're all sort of roughly on the same side, right? We believe in individual rights. We believe that America is fundamentally good. Yes, we might disagree on some tax stuff. We might disagree on foreign policy. But we all basically believe that the thing that's been going on here for 250 years is pretty good. Then you have the wokesters and everything else that's going on the left, and they are here to destroy everything. I see that as a much bigger enemy right now. So what I would like to do is keep the alliance. We can use an X-Men reference or an Avengers reference, or we can do a Lord of the Rings thing. I would like an alliance of people that think some different things to say, you know what? You're more religious. This person happens to be gay. You don't believe that drugs should be legal. This person believes that marijuana should be legal. But those are not the structural issues that are under assault right now. There is a structural issue under assault, which is the very foundation of America. So let's put that stuff aside. Let's be the best of ourselves. Let's argue that stuff out. And I think there's a real opportunity for that on the right. So that's why, in many ways, the crazier that the left goes, it's good for everybody, as long as they don't burn the whole thing down, because it is waking up people in droves. So someone like Naomi, who I chatted with a little bit yesterday, she's waking up. But, you don't wake up like this in most cases. Very few people do. Candace Owens was a former lefty. She woke up like this. Most people, it's a slow awakening. It's a shocking awakening. It's a awake, slumber, awake, and then finally an awakening. So you have to make room for all of those people.